An enslaved woman on a cotton plantation is considered an outcast amongst her fellow Africans. And as she comes into womanhood, her problems increase. What will she decide when a new enslaved man named Caesar invites her to escape? The woman, Cora. The book, The Underground Railroad. And you're listening to Lit Society. Let's get lit! Hey readers, this is Alexis.
And this is Kari.
And you're listening to Lit Society, a podcast about books and a bit of drama.
That's right.
As you know, readers, each week we select a theme to discuss based on the book that we are reading. And this week, our theme of the week will be some trivia.
Oh, yes, a game? Is it a game, Alexis?
It's a game. Trivia for Kari.
Oh.
You know?
Well, let's get the fun out of that. Literati, are y'all ready? Let's go.
I'm going to keep it simple. They're just a few questions, and they're core questions that talk about the Underground Railroad and slavery of the time. Okay?
Insert Porsha going, it's not a real railroad.
Please insert that, please, okay?
It wasn't a train, baby.
All right.
It is, Porsha. This book is nonfiction. Shit.
First
Bye,
question.
Ashy. Oh, go ahead.
First question. What is the name of the symbolic border between North and South states? Multiple choice, so listen to all the options.
Okay.
Maryland, Virginia border. B, Pennsylvania, Maryland line. Or C, Mason-Dixon line.
C, Mason-Dixon line. Final answer.
Oh, very nice, Kari. Listen, a boundary was established between Maryland and Pennsylvania, and that was the line that became the Mason-Dixon line. It was originally purposed to settle a dispute over land ownership between two wealthy families.
That I did not know. Okay, thank you, Alexis.
Fun fact, okay?
Two wealthy families created the Mason-Dixon line? Wow.
Yep. They were actually British surveyors.
Okay.
Question number 2. Who is credited with starting the Underground Railroad? A, William Steele. B, Harriet Tubman. Or C, William Lloyd Garrison. That's the name.
Oh, I'm going to say William Lloyd Garrison. And here's why.
Okay.
I already know Auntie Harriet was doing a lot of things. She didn't have time to just start the Underground Railroad. That woman was a whole spy. Okay.
Right.
The first one, it wasn't Steele. Okay. So it's the last one.
Okay. I love it. Oh, sorry. No, that's not the correct answer.
Why would you love me losing? It be your own friends.
No. I was rooting for you, and you didn't get it right.
It's not A. It's not Steele.
No, you said it's Garrison.
Did I? Roll back the tape. I think I said it was A. Go ahead.
It's almost hurtful to me to watch her be so dumb.
Please. The answer is William Steele. He is considered the father of the Underground Railroad. He was a freeman, and he kept records of the people and would later publish a book in 1872 called The Underground Railroad, and it's a little more details. And those were stories of some of the records that he kept. Now,
he was snitching. He was snitching for the book deal.
Now he kept records so that families coming through could keep up. He could kind of help reconnect families.
Okay. All right.
Which is a good thing. And Lloyd Garrison was an abolitionist, a journalist, and a social reformer who wrote a widely read anti-slavery newspaper.
Oh, but he did
is a
not
white
start
male.
the Underground Railroad.
He did not start it. There is another man, something Levy, and he is considered the president. That's a white male. And then William Still is actually a black man.
Okay. He's considered the president of what? The Underground Railroad?
Yeah, I think between him and William Still, I think I need to do a little more research, but between him and William Still, they helped a lot of people.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is an opportunity for us all to, although I'm sure a lot of our listeners already know this.
Yeah,
I will hit the books after this episode. Thank you.
Okay, here's our theme question. Remember, it's multiple choice, okay?
Our theme question or our third question?
Our theme question and third question. What is the Underground Railroad? A train escaped slaves were allowed on board to travel to free states.
Well, there has to be an opening for the railroad at some point. Because somebody's driving the train. It's not electric like what we have now.
B, code words enslaved people used if they wanted to escape. Or C, a secret network of people, places, and routes that provided shelter and assistance to escaping slaves.
Well, it's obviously C, Alexis.
Well, thank you. Very good, Kari. You've redeemed yourself.
Thank you.
And question 4. What law required citizens to assist in the capture of runaway slaves? A, Slave Trade Act. B, Abolitionist Act. Or C, Fugitive Slave Act.
C, the Fugitive Slave Act.
Very good. Very good.
It's the wording that helped people feel like, oh, these are fugitives. These are criminals. I must do my duty and turn in these innocent souls to their imminent demise. So
the law was passed in 1850, and I believe they say it's part of the Compromise law, and it requires slaves to be returned to owners even if they were in a free state. The federal government was actually responsible for finding, returning, and trying escaped slaves.
This was to appease the South and avoid a split, which was inevitable. Okay.
Question 5. How did enslaved people refer to the northern states and Canada? A, the Promised Land. B, Liberty Heaven. Or C, Free Territory.
I do feel like that was referred to as the Promised Land. A.
Very good. Yes, Kari. Great job.
Thank you.
Question 6 and our final question. Which amendment abolished slavery in 1865? Was it the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, or the 13th Amendment?
Oh, that was the 13th Amendment because that reworked slavery into other institutions, some of which still exist today.
So in 1863, Abe Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious areas are henceforth and shall be free. But it wasn't until December 6th of 1865 that it was officially abolished with the 13th Amendment.
There's also a documentary produced, I believe, by Ava DuVernay, I think titled The 13th Amendment. My husband's been trying to get me to watch it. I don't have the bandwidth in my soul and heart.
Oh, you did
at the moment. But did you watch it?
I did. I watched it.
Okay.
Very informative. Very informative.
I know some highlights and they're already heartbreaking, of course. So, okay. Yeah, go ahead with this bonus question.
Kari, I know you're a history buff. Come on, you got this. All right, bonus question. When were the last slaves freed?
Am I free? I'm just kidding. Oh, that was inappropriate.
Was it though?
No. Debatable. The last slaves were freed on Juneteenth when they realized that a large segment of the slavery population were already free and they just were not informed. So when those slaves in Texas were freed, then those were the last remaining slaves in the not yet 50 nifty, but the United States of America, the disunited States of America at the time.
Okay, great. Excellent. And that was in Galveston, Texas, when the last slaves received word that they had been freed from bondage. And that's it.
Thank you.
That is
I can exhale. Oh my goodness.
You did an excellent
Alexis.
job, Kari.
Well,
Excellent job.
You chose wonderful questions in line with this week's book. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that was really my goal. Why don't we take a quick break and then we'll come back for our context, and author.
Let's do it.
And we're back. Kari, thank you. Again, excellent job. Even though I enjoyed that you got one wrong too much. I mean, but just a little bit. I was like,
I saw your true colors.
I know you're a history buff, so it wasn't that bad. Anyway, Kari, why don't you share with us information about the author and context for this book?
Yeah, so the author of The Underground Railroad is Colson Whitehead. And I've already talked about him when we covered the Nickel Boys. But since then, Alexis and I had the pleasure of hearing him speak at the Lit Fest in Chicago. And this was when he released another book we love called The Harlem Shuffle. Harlem Shuffle. Yeah. So, but the interviewer asked him about the Underground Railroad, and Whitehead says he's inspired by everything around him. He's obviously from a studious family. He's a studious person himself. He reads a lot and he pays attention. As a kid, the language around the Underground Railroad was so vivid to him that he thought it must be a literal railroad. And so he thought, why not? That would be a great, interesting premise for a book. So that's how we got the book that we're covering today. He was born in New York City in 1969, one of 4 children. And it's noteworthy that he has 2 Pulitzer Prizes. I don't think he has 3 yet, but this man has a way of writing that is so unique to him and that it feels very epic. Even his books. His books aren't, if you're watching our show on YouTube, I'm holding the Underground Railroad and you can see this isn't like, the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois thick, but it feels like 5 complete acts. I will say 3 to 5 complete acts. And that's in line with his writing style. That type of writing, that unique, very detailed, great motivated characters, colorful writing, that has earned him a National Book Award, a Pulitzer Prize for the book we're covering today, and also for the Nickel Boys, which we covered, I think, a couple years ago. You can find that episode in our catalog. And yeah, he's just one of the greatest writers of our time. That is not disputable. And for more information on him, please listen to that episode on the Nickel Boys that we published, because we go into detail more about his upbringing and who he is today. Alexis.
Yeah.
Who do you think would enjoy reading The Underground Railroad?
Okay. So I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to really think about this, but I think we've read, you know what? I think, although this is a fiction piece, I would say going back and considering some of this is nonfiction. Going back.
This is fiction.
This is fiction.
Gotcha, Porsha. It's not a real railroad.
Okay. Again, this is fiction. I say go back and read some of our nonfiction books that talk about nonfiction books that we cover. And the one that comes to mind is Stamped.
Listen.
Taking that pathway there. That's what I think.
Why not get some context around the truth that has inspired this nonfiction?
Absolutely.
My views of race and the definition of race, the true existence of it, of course, its effects are heavily felt, but how it came about, this is something everyone should know. And Stamped really put it in very clear terms. So I agree. That's a great book to start with. I won't say that if you enjoyed that book, you'll also enjoy this one, but it's almost like a prerequisite to really understanding the pain of these characters. It's one of the ways to educate yourself, right, on the Black American experience.
Yeah. So the way I think about it is before you, like you said, before you dive into fiction, have some context. And that certainly is a big scoop of context for you taking in that book.
Yeah, I agree with you. Magical realism does not involve spiritism in any way. It's more of, or usually doesn't, I should say. It's more about dreaming beyond the boundaries of the reality and tying a sort of fantastical fiction to what's real.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way it's done in this book, once I heard this book had magical realism, I was like, this subject is kind of serious. I don't know if that should be done.
Yeah, how does it relate?
I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the show also?
No, I didn't. I did not.
Me neither. But I know that the Underground Railroad is a miniseries right now on Amazon. So yeah, I agree with you. The way this book, if you enjoy magical realism and just fantastical elements within stories that are very heavy, it's almost like comedic relief without the comedy. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay.
But it's a great break in the story flow, the way he uses magical realism here.
Why did you choose this book, Kari?
You mad? So we'll know how you really feel about the book at the end of this episode. I chose this book because we've never read a Colson Whitehead book that didn't stick with me, that I didn't just love. And I hate to hear them. Yeah, it does stick with you. I hate to hear them talked about or spoken of in the same conversation all the time. But it's true that James McBride, if you love James McBride, you might love Colson Whitehead. And right now, McBride is my favorite author. So I was like, let me go back to my cousin too. He's not really my cousin. Don't tell him that. He'll be like, I don't know her. I keep ignoring her emails.
I came to see you in person.
Yeah, we met. You signed my book. But I was like, let me revisit Colson because I know it won't miss. And sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
When you read a lot of fluff, like I've been doing lately, you're like, let me read something more substantial. Both types of books have use, but I was ready for something more.
Gotcha.
Rich.
Well, I love it. Shall we take a quick break before we jump into our deep dive?
Sure. Yeah, we can.
Let's do it.
Alexis, do you remember when we read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell?
Yes, that book kept me on the edge of my seat.
Me too. It was featured by Book of the Month. They curate the latest fiction from new and upcoming authors and create a short list for you to choose from each and every month.
I heard of them.
I know you have.
Are they known for helping readers discover books they might not have found elsewhere?
Yes. Each month, their editorial team reads through hundreds of new books before selecting some of the best. The result is a carefully curated selection for members to choose from. They offer hardcovers and audiobooks. So if you're short on time, they also have audiobooks. So you can choose which option best works for you. It's the most fun book buying experience.
You know, I've been looking for a way to discover new books.
I love that.
Why did you choose this month?
Yeah, so first of all, Book of the Month is a great way to get out of a reading rut. You know, when you keep choosing books from the same genre,
right,
out of habit or whatever.
Right.
So they will really help you with that. And this month I chose All We Were Promised by Ashton Lattimore. It's her debut novel. Lattimore is an award-winning journalist who spent her career highlighting newsworthy events within the Black community. Her first novel is a work of historical fiction, which we love.
Yes.
And it's about a conspiracy to help an enslaved girl in a volatile pre-Civil War Philadelphia. This fight for freedom may cost those involved everything as they battle within a city that's engulfed by race riots and attacks on abolitionists.
Now, you know I love historical fiction.
Yes, girl.
That book sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to try Book of the Month.
Okay.
How do I join?
So just visit bookofthemonth.com. I have a code this month for you and the literati, our listeners. And you can get your first book for only $5. I mean, that's an amazing price, right? Because they're hardcovers and audiobooks. So for just $5, go to bookofthemonth.com and enter code PASTEL. That's P as in Paul, A, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, E, L. PASTEL, and get your first book for just $5.
I can't wait to find my new favorite read from Book of the Month.
Okay, let me know what you get.
Okay. And we're back, Kari. Are you ready to take a spoiler-filled deep dive into the Underground Railroad?
I sure am.
Let's do it.
Hey, you guys. There will be a lot of spoilers in this episode because we spoil books. Okay, let's continue. Now, as we said, this book is kind of divided into acts. The first act we'll title The Plantation. It's where the family begins, starting with Ajari, the grandmother. Alexis, can you tell us anything you remember about Ajari?
What I remember, Ajari came over on one of the ships, and then she had a child, but she was a strong woman. A lot of people looked to her.
Yeah. Now, she did have the desire for independence, and just the belief that it was possible kind of wrung out of her by this experience. When they came to take them, her mother had already died. She found out her father had been beheaded along the way. And this might be a great point also for a content warning, a minor content warning, that we are going to touch on topics involving SA, that is sexual assault and violence. So when Ajari was taken, she found again that her mother was already dead, but she found that her father had been beheaded. The trip across the ocean, she was fondled, assaulted, sold, and resold as her captors soon found ruin, one after the next. So when you don't have money, what do you sell? Your property. And in this case, that included souls. Ajari was among those souls, sold and resold. On the plantation, she was married 3 times. Her children were either murdered by their captors, died of fever, or one boy died of blood poisoning. Mabel, Cora's mother, now we have 3 people. We have Ajari, the grandmother, Mabel, the mother, and Cora, who's our protagonist. But Mabel, Cora's mother, was the one who lived past 10 years old. Ajari died in the fields from a knot in her brain. Blood from her nose and white froth covered her lips. She could have been anywhere in the world. And she died right there in the field of her captors. It was her grandmother talking, the book says, when Cora first said no to Caesar's suggestion that they flee via the Underground Railroad. And I love the way that's put. 3 weeks later, though, she said yes. And that time it was her mother talking. So throughout the book, we have, I believe, real life notices about runaway girls. So it'll be like, here's an example. $25 reward. Ran away from the subscriber on the 6th of February last. His Negro girl, Peggy. She is about 16 years of age and is a bright mulatto, about the ordinary height, with straight hair and tolerable good features. She has a ragged scar on her neck, occasioned by a burn. She will no doubt attempt to pass for a free girl, and it is likely she has obtained a free pass. She has a down look when spoken to and not remarkably intelligent. She speaks quick with a shrill voice. And that was from John Dark, Chatham County, May 17th. So throughout the book, we have these actual notices for fugitive slaves. Now we meet Randall and the Randall family. This is the family that owns the plantation. They are as evil as you imagine a family in this business to be, as selfish as you imagine a family in this business to be. And they also hate each other a little bit. Then we meet the Hob House. Alexis, can you describe the Hob House for us?
The Hob House is the disregarded house, the people that have been disregarded. Maybe they have an injury, a deformity, or a mental health problem, or the community finds a reason to throw them away. And so they put them there and they avoid them mostly at all costs.
Well put. It's for the rejects. And Cora, Mabel's daughter, would eventually find her home here. These Hob houses were filled with slaves mourning the children that were beat out of their bodies. Cora became Hob's most infamous resident. In her day, Ajari, the grandmother, had a small plot of land on the plantation. Her mother, Mabel, Cora's mother, protected that small plot of land. And I mean, it was really small. It was 3 square yards. But it was the only piece of earth that they could do with what they pleased. Right?
Right.
So when both women were gone, because Mabel eventually ran away, Cora was now in charge of this plot of land. Cora, however, was young. She was small, but she was determined to protect that small plot of land. She fought for the dirt. Let me explain. There was a man named Blake. Blake was big, 3 times Cora's size. He built a doghouse for the animal he loved. And guess where he built it, Alexis?
On her plot of land.
Disregarded her. Basically didn't even see
Didn't
her until
care.
this moment. Didn't care about her. But when he got it into his mind that he was going to take that little piece of land for his dog, this is a fellow slave, okay? He, knocked over her stuff and went and built a beautiful little mansion for his dog. Perhaps
Not a
living
mansion
vicariously. That's what he called it.
Dog.
Perhaps he was living vicariously through the animal, wishing that he had a little home that he could claim was his own. But anyway, the result.
It was also an opportunity to showcase his building skills, right?
That's true.
His
Yeah, he did
woodworking
have
skills.
some talents. So Cora saw the house. Everyone looked at her to see, oh, what's that little girl going to do? You know, just something to do. Just everybody just looking to be nosy. Cora took a hatchet, walked over to the doghouse and smashed it to rubble. Blake walked toward her and looked in her eyes. And in this moment, some people say Blake was afraid. Some say Cora's eyes were darting to and fro as if she was ready to fight an army. But whatever happened, Blake let the girl alone and walked away. Eventually, Blake ran from the plantation, running toward freedom. And the dog that he loved so much is the reason why he got caught. His punishment made even Cora shiver. During this time, Cora was assaulted by a gang of men, of fellow slaves, when she entered puberty. If anyone saw or heard, they did nothing to help her because Cora was an outcast. She had stood up to Blake, and you think that'd make her admired? No, it was like people began forming gossip about her, saying she went into the woods to perform bestiality. She was trying to, just making up whatever lies. It was like a joke for everyone. And she had no one to protect her because her mother had fled and her grandmother had died. On one of the few nights that slaves were allowed to gather, sing, and even dance, the Randall boys, the plantation owners, started drinking in the house and decided to join the slaves at the slave party. Okay, this is one of the few opportunities that the slaves on the plantation get to let their hair down and enjoy the little bit of life that they have. And the Randall boys were like, let's go down, see what they're doing over there. They beat a boy nearly to death at the gathering. The only thing that stopped them was what, Alexis?
Cora
That's right.
jumped in the beating path.
Yeah, she blocked the blows with her own body. She saw her own blood spill into the ground instead of the boys. And it was something about them taking the joy out of this child and beating him relentlessly that sparked something in her. It was like she was already a runaway before she had even run away. So when it was all done, one of her eyes was swollen shut. She was lashed the next morning. She was scarred and bruised. A slave named Big Anthony tried to run soon after. He was caught, and his punishment was particularly demonic. New stocks were carved for him to dwindle in. Then the Randall boys invited guests over for an alfresco meal to watch as Big Anthony was beat brutally. The guests ate slowly. Big Anthony was castrated and his member was stuffed in his mouth. His mouth was sewn shut. He was doused in oil and burned alive for the enjoyment of the dinner guests. Please note, while this is a book of fiction, elements such as these are based on nonfiction. So as horrific as they are, you will find actual acts of violence of similar nature, if not exact, throughout history.
So gross. So gross.
The remaining Randall son addressed his slaves, his property. He publicly groped Cora. So his brothers died. Now he's the only one over the plantation. And it was in that moment that Cora decided to take Caesar up on his proposition. Cora first thought Caesar was simple. You know, Caesar was a slave who was like new on the block. He was acting like he could read kind of a little bit. It was like, I don't know. He dream a lot. He be wanting to do stuff. And that's crazy. but now that she's decided to trust him a bit because she's going to flee with him, she starts really taking a look at him. And that man is not, as they say, simple. In fact, she saw a wisdom in him beyond his years. He could read. He was literate. And he was a thoughtful man. Caesar had met a man named Fletcher, sickened by slavery, which he saw as an affront against God. Fletcher was a white man. Like her mother, Cora dug up the yams she'd planted in her little patch of land on that plantation, and she prepared for the journey. They had 6 hours until their disappearance would be discovered, and then 2 more hours before anyone could catch them, okay? So to their surprise, while they're on the journey, they hear a little voice. Who's this voice?
Her bestie on the farm, on the plantation.
On the plantation, Cora has no friends, really, but it's one girl who just will refuse not to be Cora's friend, and they're similar in age. Her name is Lovey. As much as she could, Lovey's mother tried to spoil her. She loved that little girl. And Lovey has a little joyfulness to her, despite her wretched condition in society. And so while Caesar and Cora are on their way to what they hope is freedom, a third passenger hops on like, where y'all going? I knew y'all was doing something. I want to come. And they was like, you can't come, Lovey. And she was like, well, wherever you going, do they know that Cora is going to be there?
Nope.
And Caesar's like, no. And she's like, well, 2 surprises are just as good as one. And they're like, fine. In the end, it was the hogs that did them in. Hog hunters? Hog catchers? I don't know what happened here. I don't know what the hogs had to do with it. Can you remind me?
Yeah, no, I don't either, because I was like,
maybe pigs? They were hog farmers?
Oh.
Yeah.
But that anyway, they got to a hog farm.
Yeah, 3 white men with hogs caught them on purpose. They were hunting for them. The hogs found them. Lovey was taken screaming by the men. But the man that grabbed Cora ended up having his head busted in, and he never woke up. That's right. Cora killed him in her fight for survival. Caesar and Cora continued on their journey. The men that were not killed. So one man was killed. One young boy, like an older teenager, was killed in a fight with Cora. And then the other men took Lovey and ran. As Caesar and Cora, I'm sorry, and I hope I said that right. Yeah, in a fight with Cora, the teenager was killed and the 2 men took Lovey. Anyway, Cora and Caesar catch up with Fletcher. He catches them up to the situation. They never had a head start. The white men were on their trail from the beginning, but the fact that they were at Fletcher's eating and having rest was a sign that they were safe for now. Fletcher loads them into a carriage and covers them before reaching a simple sounding white man. So they hear under this blanket a man that sounds like he's unintelligent. Fletcher departs and leaves them with this man. The man has like what looks like torture devices on the wall. And Cora's like, what have we gotten into?
Oh, yeah.
And the man's like, don't worry about it. He opens the door and leads them underground to what, Alexis?
An underground railroad.
A real railroad platform like the Blue Line.
Right.
In Chicago.
Because it's just that dirty.
Mm-hmm. Or the Q train or whatever y'all take in Brooklyn.
Really? Like, you really thought, like, there was an actual train that took them through?
It's just that. It's just as dirty, but it's an actual train, okay, with a platform. And like, I think a little bench for you to wait.
Yes,
sit and wait for the train. When they next see daylight, so they get on the next train. It's more on time than the CTA. When they see daylight next, they are in South Carolina. Cora looks up at the skyscraper and wonders how far she has traveled. At this point in the book, I'm thinking they died in the fight with the hog hunters.
Oh.
And this is like some afterlife vision.
Oh, okay.
I am incorrect. Second, I thought they traveled into the future because who has skyscrapers? It's relative. It's like it is a skyscraper. You forget that slavery wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't. And she was still a young girl, so she could look up and see something as a skyscraper.
Sure. Yeah, but there's also an elevator in some of these buildings, so they actually are at the time considered like skyscrapers. Let's leave Cora and Caesar for the moment. And let's meet Ridgway. Alexis, you want to describe this character for us?
No, not at all. He is a slave hunter. He's violent. And he travels alone, I think. Well, he has a gang with him, but over time, I think we learned that people get tired of him and they leave him to himself. But he's traveling with a young boy, maybe a teenager, and an older black man, both black men that he's traveling with to support him in his hunt for the escaped slaves.
And we'll talk about his co-travelers soon because they're very interesting also. But Ridgway has a great motivation in this book. His father was a blacksmith. And as he's growing up with his father that is filled with a lot of ideology and thinking about things, Ridgway himself is trying to find his purpose in life. He looks at his father and what he once thought was a very honorable profession, he starts to think is not the path to his greatness. And he's looking for a way to be great. So he becomes a patrolman, hunting Black bodies, hunting Black people. And it is so interesting how he completely throws himself into this. At first, it was for his own purpose, his own path, for people to look up to him. But his hunt for blood becomes such that even those who share his racist ideas are turned off by him. And he becomes more of a lone traveler. He's also very rough. He's not trying to make friends. He ends up taking 2 co-travelers, one of them being a young Black boy who he bought for $5 and then immediately freed. However, the Black boy chose to stay with him, and people have ideas about why that's true. There's also an interesting idea about what these characters represent, and we will talk about that a little later. So let's go back to skyscrapers and elevators in South Carolina. That's right. We meet Bessie, Bessie Carpenter. Yeah, that's her name. She is the girl to the Andersons, a white family. Bessie cares for their children. She cleans their home. She runs errands for them. I think she cooks sometimes. Bessie is in a wonderland of plenty and freedom and shiny tall buildings. No one is chasing her. Bessie walks around freely. Some who recognize her even smile at her, even white people. They go, "Oh, that's the Andersons girl." Okay, they won't speak to her, but they'll smile in recognition. At the end of the day, she arrives at the dormitories in which she lives. And they're clean. Like, they're so clean, she won't even touch the wall. She's like, "Oh, it's nice in here. Way better than the Hop House." Because who is Bessie, Alexis?
Bessie is Cora.
Bessie is Cora. Bessie is taken under the wing of Miss Lucy, the white woman who keeps an eye on everyone who lives in the dormitories. These are these are escaped slaves, Black people. And at the top, keeping watch over them with a gentle encouragement is Miss Lucy, the white lady.
So
okay?
I'm not sure they're all escaped slaves. I think some of them are just free people that have come to the area.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that could be. So at the end of the train ride from Georgia, Cora and Caesar were met by a white man. We're going back a little bit. That white man's name is Sam. Sam gave them food. He gave them an opportunity to bathe, and he gave them papers with new names and lives detailed. Interestingly, the papers say that Caesar and Cora are property of the U.S. government, but essentially they are free. They are free men. All right. So they have to learn these new names, learn to answer to them, and learn the story of their lives so that they can answer consistently if someone asks, who's your mother? Blah, 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 Cora soon begins receiving an education. Having tasted freedom, she starts to hate Mabel, her mother. How could Mabel have left her child behind to promised death, knowing that something like freedom was possible. You know, when her mother ran away, Cora was 10 years old at the time, but Cora feels like she could have accompanied her mom. Cora and Caesar settle into a new routine. Part of this routine is going to the doctor for Cora. Cora is examined by Dr. Campbell. It was painful. It made her feel ashamed. Girl, join a club. That's just the guy.
You can say that again.
She shops for things, horrified to learn that the stores charge Black patrons. First of all, there are only certain stores that the Black people can shop in, and the same products sold in Black stores is sold for 3 times as much as it's sold to white people. So Black people already don't earn a lot, and it's like society is built to keep them in a certain level by charging them more for necessities. Caesar had tried to kiss her, by the way, when they came from up under the tunnel. You know, they had been through a lot. She was holding on to him. He admired her, by the way. At first, she was like, why you ask me? You think I'm like a good luck charm because my mama ran away, but I'm the opposite of it. He was like, I chose you because I knew you could do it. And she's like, oh, hold on to me. I'm scared.
But she's also still a very young girl, too. She's a teenager.
She ain't that young.
She's still a teenager.
We don't know how old Caesar is. Anyway,
Caesar's
it's
a
all on the
man,
up and
girl.
up. It's all on the up and up. So he tried to kiss her and she was like, oh, no, that's not. And so he was like, huh? Did you hear a bird? And they both just act like it never happened. Caesar works what sounds like an assembly line. He likes his new job. He's useful. Caesar was happy in South Carolina. Now, this was not supposed to be their last stop. They're supposed to venture north, but time passes. It's clear Caesar wants to stay. And to quote unquote Bessie, who's really Cora, she's like, well, this is so much better than the plantation. I'm fine staying. Like,
It's like,
no big deal.
Don't stay. Go.
That's how you felt?
I immediately didn't want them to stay because I felt badness coming. I wanted them to go.
But I didn't feel like they would avoid that badness in the north.
I felt like they should escape where they were and go further north immediately.
And isn't that how it goes?
Because they just went
Like
to the next state over. It's too much. I was stressed out.
You get lulled into a routine and you're like, it's at least better than what I had. When something immensely better for you could possibly be only a short distance away while something perhaps evil is right next door. You know what I'm trying to say?
I know.
Like this applies in a lot of aspects of our life.
Yep.
Anyway, so it's decided they're going to stay. One night, Bessie, remember that's Cora, y'all. She sees a nearly topless woman running on the dormitory's property, a Black woman screaming,
Oh, right.
They're taking my babies! They're taking my babies! Bessie imagines the woman, that woman is remembering her torture on the plantation.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, she's being traumatized. She was traumatized. And so she can't forget everything she went through on the plantation, and it's revisiting her. That woman's name was Gertrude, by the way. So that image of that woman running and eventually being held down and escorted away stays in Cora's mind. That's Bessie. Remember, Cora's Bessie. Okay. Lucy, remember, that's the white lady that oversees the dorm.
Thank you.
Lucy gives Bessie, remember that's Cora, a new placement. So try to imagine Cora's situation. Because although the actual train of the Underground Railroad is fiction, this living in the dorms and kind of being held at the whims of your dorm overseers, this is very real. So the dorm overseer, Lucy, is like, Bessie, you're smart. You're really taking hold of this new life that us kind white people have created for you. Let's move you out of the Anderson home where you're their girl, and let's move you to another job because you're smart. And so Bessie goes, okay. Bessie kind of liked them kids, the Anderson kids. You know, they were fine. Mm-hmm. Like, why I gotta leave? The Mr. Anderson isn't trying to, grope her. She just does her work. Why I gotta leave? Mm-hmm. Oh, this is like, oh. Yeah, side note. You ever notice how people don't want you to like your job, including your overseers? They always want you to be looking for the next job. But what if you're good at your job and you like it?
And you just want to stay there.
That's considered complacency.
Yeah.
As if you are so good at your job, you must now move on. That's the society we live in.
Is that okay? Can I just stay there? Is it?
I agree.
Can I? Okay.
Tangential. Okay, so Bessie is like, okay, yeah, fine. What about Gertrude? That woman that was running, screaming about her babies, and Lucy's like, She's being treated separately in another part of the dorm with its own name. That's where we put the rejects, basically.
She said, oh, this is the hob again.
There we go. Bessie goes, oh, it's your hob. And Lucy goes, say what now? And Bessie's like, never mind. Where's my new placement? The museum. So Bessie, remember that's Cora. She meets Mr. Fields at the museum. Would she be cleaning the museum? No. What is she going to be doing, Alexis?
She's going to be reenacting slavery.
Not just slavery, but African life. Yes, for the museum patrons. Yes, behind glass. Yes, like an animal. Yes, it's a people's zoo. They first put her in an African scene. Oh, yes, but do African things. Mm-hmm. Do Africa. Great. Then they put her in a scene that resembles a typical day at the plantation. And it's nice. You know, the slaves all clean, singing, holding hands, singing about the Lord. And it's a spinning wheel that helps make her work easier just outside of her lovely home on the plantation. So none of these scenes are authentic or accurate.
I would have been like, take me back to the house so I can.
You wouldn't have been like anything. And this is the point.
Can I go back, please?
You work with the deck you're handed. And this was the deck that Cora had to work with. Remember, that's Bessie.
I mean, I would have wanted to go back.
And so does Bessie.
Exist.
And what are you going back to? Being the girl of a white family.
Yes.
You're like, well, at least I got to teach the kids and stuff.
Yes.
And they were, you know.
That's what I would go back to.
Yeah. So Cora's now an actor. Pantomiming in front of white gawkers. And in one of these white gawkers that are looking at the exhibit is actually one of the kids that she used to watch. And they're like teasing her. And then the girl makes eye contact with Cora and Cora gives her the stink eye. And the girl's like, ooh. You know, she having flashbacks like, that's the nanny that didn't play no games. So anyway, there's a little interesting moment. Anyway, now for another doctor exam. So she has another exam. It's not as brutal this time, but the doctor does suggest to Bessie that she considers sterilization. You've already been deflowered. You know what that's all about. Why not, make your life easier? So in this moment, he compares the sexual assault that she endured to a man and wife making love. You've done that. Why not take away your ability to have children? Since Bessie was deflowered, why not get her tubes cut? So these sterilization processes or procedures were practiced on Black inmates first, before considered safe enough for white patients who chose to have these kind of procedures. And this was very typical in the medical world. Bessie knows white patients are not being pressured to give up their right to procreate. So why is the doctor even he's strongly suggesting this for her?
Not only that, he's telling her to tell her friends. Tell your friends about it.
Yeah, tell all the Blacks about sterilization. It's fun. Back to Sam. Remember, Sam was the first man that they met in South Carolina, Caesar and Cora.
Right.
Sam warns Cora and Caesar to stay away from a particular salon that caters to Black patrons. Why, Alexis?
Because a doctor was in there running off at the mouth, and he shared that they are treating patients with syphilis with sugar water. So what was the experiment called they were doing?
Tuskegee.
Oh, it was that one. Tuskegee. The Tuskegee Institute experiment. Yes.
Yes. And for more on that, please listen to our episode on Henrietta
Lacks.
Is that one?
I think so.
Sure.
Henrietta Lacks.
Flax.
Lacks.
Lax. That's what I said. Okay. Okay. So this is giving us an insight into what freedom looks like for Cora and her people at this time. Would the victims, if they ran into that saloon, Cora and Caesar, and told the men what was happening, would they believe them over their white doctors?
No.
Where was the proof? You know? Now back to the dormitory. Lucy now mentions to Bessie that she should strongly consider sterilization and recommend it to the other girls in a language that they can understand. A nice position may be offered to Cora for her help.
Because she's so smart.
Mm-hmm. So Bessie, if you remember that's Cora, I'm doing the quotation. Bessie now sees Lucy's kindness and guidance for what it is, manipulation and coercion. Bessie speaks up, explaining that her fertility should not be taken and any medical treatment should be by her choice. Otherwise, the hand forcing her is like the master of a plantation. And Lucy is very offended by the comparison.
She is.
She leaves. Mm-hmm.
You don't know good help when you look it in the eye.
If you can't see the difference between what I'm offering you to what an ignorant plantation owner does, then I feel sorry for you.
Well, can't you just see that conversation?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Those are modern day conversations.
I know. In different terms.
Yes,
I know.
It's very modern.
Can't you see how we're helping you? You don't even know what's good for you. It's sad. You're sad. Mm-hmm. So anyway, as she's leaving the room, Lucy mentions to an assistant, like, I don't know why these men are looking for us. We don't harbor murderers. Ooh.
Well.
Bessie, remember that's Cora. Bessie like, oh, they looking for me. She doesn't consider what she did murder either, by the way. She was fighting for her life and safety, her life though. So also I want to interject here because there's an odd scene that provides wonderful context. Throughout this book, Colson is trying to give us a glimpse into reality. So he has something as fantastical as an actual railroad being the Underground Railroad, but then he has elements that are just taken from history. Like Dr. Campbell is actually a grave robber and he loves robbing Black graves exclusively and performing experiments on them because he wants to advance medical discovery. That's it. This is just a scene Colson throws into the book and it's delicious. I think it's just a great job. So anyway, learning that a man named Ridgway has gathered a posse to find a runaway murderer, Cora plans her escape. She could not stay in North Carolina. She meets Sam again and is led to the train platform. Caesar, unfortunately, is not with her. Above, she hears Sam's house ransacked. What a word. Ransacked and set ablaze. The slave catchers have arrived. Cora spent hours on that dark platform, and this platform wasn't as nice as the other one in Georgia, which probably has meaning as I'll think about this book for days and weeks and months.
Yeah. This one like had rats and mice and ugh.
Yeah, and it's not as built out. Okay, so she's in the dark alone, wondering about Caesar's fate. And the train finally came, but it was a maintenance train ran by a boy who wasn't trusted with human passengers. He's like, I barely saw you, and I'm not even supposed to pick people up because I don't know. I have to guess they think I'm going to run the train off the tracks. But he does pick her up, and he lets her off at a closed platform. A railway attendant, remember the Underground Railroad is a real train. A railway attendant named Martin brings a wagon and gives her a ride through the Freedom Trail. Can you explain this Freedom Trail?
So the Freedom...
Martin's white, by the way. He's a white abolitionist who works as an attendant on this imaginary train.
The Freedom Trail is a row or a path of trees to which... Black and white people are hung and left for dead or tortured, and they're just hanging from trees. So you're just walking along and you got tree upon tree upon tree of hanging dead people.
Yes. And why are these people hung, Alexis?
Oh, because so is this North Carolina? This is another area. So this is another area. And this is an area where blacks are to be removed from the country. And I think they're escaped slaves. Either they're escaped slaves or runaways of some sort. At this point, they're not supposed to be in North Carolina. And this is their way of making sure they don't come back.
Yeah, and I should say that Cora started her journey on the plantation in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Then the train took her to South Carolina. Now the maintenance train has dropped her off in North Carolina, where slavery is technically outlawed.
Yes.
This freedom trail is lined with black bodies. Some of them escaped slaves, some of them just people being black. The white bodies, as few as they are usually those who have helped black people try to find some humanity on earth for themselves. They're mutilated, they're hung on trees. Martin Wells is a station agent for the Underground Railroad in North Carolina in this book. He became involved with anti-slavery efforts through his father, Donald. They arrive at Martin's home, and his white wife is reluctant to take in Cora for fear that the whole family will be found out. So obviously, they're not really used to bringing people home, Martin isn't, and harboring them. But that station was closed. So there's nowhere really to put Cora right now.
Yeah.
So until an opportunity opens up, he's like, stay in my attic. They provide Cora with a hiding place in an attic. Cora looks out at the park from the attic, and it's filled exclusively with white people. And this never occurred to her that in these slave states, white and black people were always together. Not, together like unified, but black people always serving white people. And physically, they were always mingled together. In these free states, they were more segregated. And in this park that she's looking at, it's only white people. She can't remember a scene like this ever. A band takes their place on stage and a show begins at this park. It begins with music. Covers of colored music are the most popular amongst the crowd. And then a coon show where white men in blackface pretend to act like what they imagine black people to be, exaggerating expressions for the amusement of the crowd. The performance then is followed by a play where a slave runs north. He suffers along the journey. He finds work, but it's humiliating. So he returns to his master, not knowing how good he had it, and begs to be taken back on the plantation. The master says, sorry, can't do it, and hands the black man over to the patrollers who kill him. And the crowd goes wild. The true purpose of the evening then reveals itself. A black woman is brought on stage, an actual black human. She's covered in filth. She is then eagerly rushed to a noose, and the crowd joyfully watches the woman die. Martin explains that this is the North Carolina way. They didn't abolish slavery. They abolished niggers. They were interested in the death of black bodies and the immigration of white workers whose votes would eventually count as much as a Southerners. So you have people coming in now from Ireland and other countries to be paid low wages for these jobs. However, after a certain amount of years, they would be considered Americans. They could vote, and they would vote in line with the interests of these Southern parties. Whereas the black vote right now was like a third of a vote or something, if it was even counted. Mm-hmm. And of course, it would be against the interests usually of the white population. Martin and Ethel do their best to continue hiding Cora, albeit Ethel is doing this reluctantly. However, night riders continue snooping around, nearly catching Cora once when they asked to see the attic. Cora later knocked over her chamber pot, creating a stench in the attic. Martin learns that the railroad stop has been shut down. Okay. Cora then realizes, oh, I'm a prisoner.
Yeah,
because why is she a prisoner, Alexis?
Because there's nowhere she can go. There's no one on the train, on the railroad to come pick her up. He has no one to pass her to. She's like you said, in prison. She's stuck here. Mm-hmm. And they have regular checkups by the patrolmen to check and see if your neighbor has anybody, they're protecting anybody, they're housing anybody, your best friend down the road. They check in all the time, regularly, just as a matter of habit. That's what they do. Everybody's getting checked.
Exactly. So also Martin and Ethel fear that if they let Cora go, that she'll rat them out and then they'll die. So now it's like they like that Spider-Man meme. Like they like who what's going on?
Exactly.
So So bad things continue happening, and the family takes this as omens. For one, a white couple is hung for harboring black children in their barn. So a white man and his wife had a barn. They hid 2 black boys in it, and their daughter got jealous of them spending time with the black children, and told authorities. So that's pretty shocking. I actually had to sit with this moment for a while. The white girl, no doubt, would not lead a very thrilling life after her parents were hung publicly and shamed her family.
That's so wild. Because she's
a child. She's a child, and she's jealous of the amount of time they're spending with these black boys. It reminded me of that book. What's that book with like groupthink? Sorry. Where children were ratting out their parents to Big Brother. Yeah. That one. That's okay. It'll come to us. Scream it out when you remember. So the boys are hung, the black boys, and the homeowners also. Martin Ethel's home during the day is full of grandchildren and is cared for by an Irish girl named Fiona. All Cora knew about Fiona was that she had a filthy mouth. But one day, the town turned their attention to the house, all in one. They pushed past Ethel and dragged Cora out. It was Fiona who gave the family away.
She getting carried out. Fiona told her it's about to go down. The misery that's next.
When Cora looks in Fiona's face, she realizes how young the girl is, but her eyes are cold and heartless, Fiona's are. Ethel screams that Martin had harbored the girl and she knew nothing about it. Martin looks away ashamed.
But
out of the crowd.
I was just going to throw in there. Martin got his assignment to take on the railroad conductor. He's not a conductor. He's somewhere in there. I'll say a conductor. Anyway, he took on this role. Happenstance because his father passed it down to him. That wasn't his mission in life to be this. Well, he was an abolitionist, but he wasn't trying to be supporting the railroad. He inherited from his father, and he did not know his father was doing it. Martin.
Oh, yeah. He actually didn't know his father Donald's view really about slavery until his father laid it out for him as an adult and made it clear that, yeah, this is what he was doing. He was trying to abolish slavery. So, yeah. Out of the crowd in this moment, so Fiona's screaming like, I knew it. Crazy. Girls, you got to look out for yourselves. You know, I regret nothing.
She didn't. She was like, where's my money, in fact?
Yeah, I want my reward. I want it right now.
Because you got to look out for yourself in this country. Okay?
Yeah, kill these people. Where's my money? So out of the crowd emerges Ridgway. Ridgway talks down to the town leader, a man not used to being disrespected, the loud man who presided over the last show and hanging. Ridgway insists you can have the others, but Cora is going with me. He loaded her onto the wagon and they rode off. As they're riding away, Cora sees Martin and Ethel, and I just want to read this part.
Eesh.
So Cora is being taken by Ridgway. Remember, he is the fugitive hunter. And as she looks behind her, she says, they had been tied to the hanging tree. Now, this is Martin and Ethel. They sobbed and heaved at their bonds. Mayor ran in mad circles at their feet. A blonde girl picked up a rock and threw it at Ethel, hitting her in the face. A segment of the town laughed at Ethel's piteous shrieks. 2 more children picked up rocks and threw them at the couple. Mayor yipped and jumped as more people bent to the ground. They raised their arms. The town moved in, and then Cora couldn't see them anymore. This sounded so animalistic to me. This sounded like...
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
The way that was described, I thought so... it was an elegant way to describe something so heinous. They had lived with these people, and now they murdered them in the most disgusting way possible. Then we get a backstory on Ethel, who no doubt is dead. But we learn her upbringing. Well, let's back up just a little bit. So her upbringing was one where her family saw themselves as very pious. She would read stories of missionaries saving Black savages, and she wanted to be one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And she would just fantasize about Black people holding her up, just praising her for saving them from their curse. Now, in their home, a slave woman lived in the top attic. That slave woman had a daughter named Jasmine. Ethel would play with Jasmine. And first they would play like natives and missionaries, and then they play doctor. And it was clear from Jasmine's skin which role she would play in both games. Eventually, Ethel's parents decided, stop playing with slave girls, you white. And so, yeah. And then the slave died, and it was just Jasmine, who was a teenager, living in the attic. And Ethel's father used to always go up to the attic late at night. And one day, Ethel asked her dad, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going upstairs. He was open about it. And it was like a relief to both of them. They would just call this upstairs time. That's daddy's upstairs time. And although her mother hated it, she allowed it, right? So eventually, her mother, Ethel's mother, had Jasmine sold. And this is so interesting. When Jasmine had her child, people would say that that boy had his father's eyes. Ethel eventually saw Jasmine, and she said looking at Jasmine's son was like looking in a dark mirror. She never put words to the fact that Jasmine was assaulted by her father and that assault produced a child. It happened. It happens. Bad things happen. Not even bad, just things happen to these people, which is why we have to save them. That's crazy reasoning. So Ethel saw Cora in her sickness one day as the realization of a calling. Like, I don't have to go to Africa to save these people. These people are coming to me. I have a savage of my own.
Yes, girls.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's our little...
At some point during her upstate, being in the attic of their home, she fell sick, and Ethel had to take care of her. Did take care of her.
So now remember that Cora is in that wagon and she's being carried away by Ridgway. Let's talk about the travel for a little bit. Ridgway has a Black man shot in the face. So Cora really wasn't even on his bingo card to pick up. Yeah. She's a bonus because he hated her mother and he can't believe he happened upon her. So he's picking up fugitives, runaway fugitives. One man is saying loudly, God will see what you've done. God will see what they've done. And so Ridgway shoots him in the face, not caring about life. On the way back to her death, as she describes it, Cora learns that Caesar was murdered from a town who assumed that he had killed the white boy that Cora had killed. And so he had been caught as a fugitive slave, put in a prison. The town burst into the prison and literally tore him apart. Yeah. So Cora also mentions here briefly that the only thing she shared with Ridgway was a hate for her mother and eyeballs. So they both had eyeballs and they both hated her mother. Ridgway even bought Cora a dress along the journey so he could pretend in her mind that she was Mabel, her mother, and that he'd finally caught Mabel, who was the one who got away.
Is that what that was about?
Yeah, that's what he says. Now, like Alexis had said earlier, there are others traveling with Ridgway. We have Cora, we have Jasper, who's the fugitive that's a shot in the face, and we have Homer. Homer is the boy traveling, the boy that Ridgway purchased and then immediately freed, but who never left his side. They all may represent different aspects of Black American mentality. Like Cora's always trying to be free. She's always trying to get what should be her, quote unquote rights, her right to live a life. Jasper seems to have reached the point of his mind now being gone. He is so traumatized by his situation that he is not able to express clearly his frustrations. Yeah. Yeah. And then Homer's like a dog who chooses to stay with their abuser seeing no future outside of that life. And so, yeah, he's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Is Bozeman also a black man?
No. So Bozeman is an accomplice of Ridgway's, and he wears necklaces of shriveled ears along his neck, right?
Yeah.
And all those shriveled ears, he like won from a Native American man in a wrestling contest. But he's described as unintelligent and more naive and sentimental than Ridgway. And this is a great place to mention him because he gets drunk and attempts to assault Cora. But what happens, Alexis? Do you remember?
No.
Oh, wow.
I do remember. I know.
That's okay. Along the journey, they took a break and Cora saw a free black man, and the black man did not look away as free black people tended to do when they saw another black person in chains. He continued looking at her. So when Bozeman attempts to assault Cora, a voice emerges. It's that free man who did not look away. He saw Cora in town. He followed them. He's holding a gun. He's accompanied by 2 other black men who are also armed. Ridgway's like, y'all must be lost. They like, we lost in that we hate Tennessee and we ready to go back home. The men already know Ridgway's name. Suddenly, Homer, the young black boy, throws a lantern, which causes assault. Yeah. It's like chaos. Bozeman is shot. Cora strangles Ridgway with her chains. The men ask Cora what to do with Homer. They're like, we can kill him if you want. She isn't sure. Spoiler alert. Homer and Ridgway live. Bozeman does not. The black men who freed her, take Cora. She kicks Ridgway in the face 3 times before leaving. And she tells herself, that's for Lovey, that's for Caesar, that's for Jasper. However, she knows all 3 of them kicks are for her. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Oh, ooh.
There's a final act in this book where Cora grabs some happiness on a plantation owned by a man named Valentine.
Yeah.
And then there is a final act. And I will let you readers discover that on your own, although I know our listeners are reading along with us and already have. Alexis, should we take a break?
Let's do it.
All right. And we're back. Alexis, what is your verdict of The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead? Would you recommend this book? How did you feel about it?
It's still hard. It's always hard to read this type of content. But Colson writes so well that you get caught up in the story. You feel the pain of the characters. You just really wrapped in. And this is a book, as I mentioned earlier, that'll stay with me, not just because of the content, but because of how well Colson writes. It'll keep me thinking about it and trying to understand all the aspects of things that he's trying to tell, because he's always telling us something in his writing. What I recommended is Colson Whitehead, you guys. And he's a great writer. So if you like reading this type of content about enslaved people and how they were treated or their experiences, then I would recommend this book to you. But if you don't like reading about that stuff, then don't read it. But as a writer, his work is great. And yeah, read it. Kari, how about you? Would you recommend this book? What's your final word on that?
I thoroughly enjoyed this work. And just as we may not enjoy all the vegetables we eat, but we find a way to, we work up an appetite for them because we know that they're good for us. Mm-hmm. I think this type of content, especially when you live in a country that is the benefactor of this arrangement, of this forced arrangement, you need to know about it. Although this is a work of fiction, it has heavy, heavy nonfiction historical elements. And so for that, I would say that for all readers, I think this is a great work. I think it's a work that could be read in schools. There is not a lot of language in it. And even though it does touch on matters of assault, it is described in a way that is sometimes even poetic. The brutality in this book is written so that if you are of a certain age, you know clearly what's going on. And I do feel if you are a younger reader, you may not understand everything, and that is okay. That is actually okay. So I would definitely 5,000% recommend this book. I enjoyed reading it. I would read it again. And although terrible things happen to our protagonist, it is not overly dark. It is so poetic, and there are so many lighter, fantastical elements that I felt it didn't put me so far down that I couldn't. At the end of this book, I'm not exhausted. I'm not pained. Although I do feel the pain of the characters, if that makes sense. You know how sometimes you put a book and you look, Toni, I love Toni Morrison. But I always know I got to clear out a week after a Toni Morrison book just to cry. And just think and cry and then cry. So I didn't feel that with this. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Definitely recommend 5 stars. Fun for the whole family.
Not fun for the whole. Let me say this. There are little snippets in this book, little lines of poetry in this book. And there are things that are funny in this book. And this one part I found funny to me, and it reminded me of an expression that's really common right now. And it was Martin was talking to Cora when she was in their attic, and she was telling him about a man who wanted to rid himself of his wife. And so he told on her that she had some slaves or something like that. Anyway, and the man got remarried 3 months later after his wife was murdered. And Cora asked, is he happy?
Is he happy now?
Is he happy?
And the one telling the story, I think it's Sam. He goes, what? And Cora says,
no, it was Martin. It was Martin.
Oh, Martin. Yeah. She goes, oh, never mind.
And I said, oh, Black people don't take nothing serious. It continues. And it continues to this day. Okay.
You got to laugh to keep from crying. And Colson describes it that all this melancholy had put her in a, comedic mood.
It sure did. And there's a couple periods within the book where she had something funny to say. Even though she's suffering.
Martin's explaining to her the situation of him and Ethel. He's like, we don't know what to do with you now. We're between a rock and a hard place. And Cora's like, you feel like slaves? And he goes, well, no, he don't say nothing.
He don't say nothing. He's telling nothing. He say something else like she should feel compassion more. And she's like, oh, chained in, locked.
Oh yeah, like a slave. Okay, all right, bye. Get out my attic, please. Thank you.
Hey, Lit Society is brought to you by Alexis Honoria, that's me, and Kari Herrera. Support the cause by leave us a 5-star review for our show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can leave comments too, okay? Because we love you. If you've enjoyed...
We love you.
If you've enjoyed what you just heard, tell a friend about Lit Society. Visit litsocietypod.com for show notes, this month's book list, and to sign up for our amazing email newsletter. And until next time, readers, read something.
Read something.